Ladies and gentlemen, if you can please come to order. Oh, no. No cheering. Welcome to town meeting. If everyone can please find their seats. And as a reminder, for those that can, if town meeting members can sit in the lower part of the auditorium and others in the upper part of the auditorium, I would appreciate it. And please note your nearest emergency exits as you find your seat. Having been advised by the town clerk, Susan Galvin, that a majority of the town meeting members are present, I hereby declare that a quorum is present for the transaction of business and the meeting is now open. The meeting will now come to order. I have been advised that, pursuant to the law, the warrant was properly returned upon the town clerk on or before the 29th day of April by the Constable William J. Neville. My name is Elizabeth Dillon, and I am your town moderator. Welcome to our annual town meeting. It is an honor and a pleasure to be with you this evening, and I am so glad to see so many new members among you, as well as many long-standing members of town meeting and other public servants. So as a point of order, having been asked by multiple members of the body what you call me, you can call me either Madam Moderator or Moderator Dillon. It's your choice. Okay. A lot of people have asked me that question. As a moderator, it's my privilege to shepherd this town meeting. There are longstanding town meeting members, as I said, and other public servants, as well as 31 newly elected town meeting members serving for the very first time. Thank you. There are also additional newly elected members of various boards and committees, and since our last town meeting in February, the rules that govern our body, Town Meeting Time, has come out with, this is the third edition, has come up with a fourth edition. And, please don't clap anymore, and you have a new moderator. So I'm very much looking forward to helping our town meeting navigate through these times of change. And to do so, I note the following. So that the body may have a clear understanding of the proceedings in this meeting, having been duly warned via the warrant, this meeting will proceed according to the rules set forth therein, and town meeting time, of course. Large-scale derivations from the rules set forth by the former moderator will not take place and should not be expected. However, I do welcome feedback from town meeting members. So in the going forward, if there are matters in which you feel that town meeting can be made more efficient or can be better served, please let me know via email after the meeting. In addition, in order to welcome the new members among us, even if I know your name, I shall not refer to people by name until they have introduced themselves so that everybody can feel welcome. And finally, again, I have asked people, and it seems like everybody has complied, so I appreciate it. I have asked people to sit in the lower part if they are town meeting members, and that's in order for us to be a cohesive unit. So, as I mentioned, and in my introductory email to you, if there are questions that arise or issues you would like addressed, please do not hesitate to contact me before, after any town meeting, during break, via my email address, and I will endeavor to timely answer your questions or refer the correct individual to you. So I look forward to working cooperatively with you during our town meeting this year, and if you will please rise if you're able so that we may say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you're able, I ask that you please remain standing because we have some singers representing the Milton High School Chorus who will lead us in our national anthem.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you all so much. That was beautiful. Now I will ask the town clerk, Susan Galvin, to swear in the new members and the elected members of town meeting. If all of the town meeting members would please stand.
Okay, if everybody could raise their right hand. Do you solemnly swear to faithfully, and impartially discharge and perform all duties incumbent upon you as a town meeting member, to bear true faith and allegiance to and uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the bylaws of the town of Milton, and to fairly and equitably execute the laws thereof within the extent of your authority and jurisdiction, so help you God. Thank you.
Thank you. And if we can briefly have the new town meeting members stand, and can we please clap for all of our newly elected town meeting members? Thank you. Thank you so much to everyone here for their service. Thank you. I'd like to start with a few acknowledgments. First, I would like to kindly acknowledge our former moderator, Mr. Bob Hiss, who served in this role for 9 wonderful years and is a true public servant. Thank you. Thank you all very much. And now, as is customary, I would like to acknowledge town meeting members with particularly long service to the town and wonderful careers, and thank you. So in precincts 4 and 4A, we have Kathleen Potter, who's been a town meeting member for 10 years. In precinct 6, yes. In precinct 6, we have Sean Fallon, who's also been a town meeting member for 10 years. In precincts 4 and 4A, we have Peel Hollingsworth at 15 years. Thank you. In precinct 5, Dennis Kahane with 15 years of service to the town. In precinct 9, we have Sean Fahey with 15 years of service to the town. Thank you, Mr. Fahey. In precinct 8, we have Sheila Varela with 20 years of service. Thank you, Ms. Varela. In precinct 3, we have Philip Matthews with 25 years of service. In precinct 6, we have Janice Wallace with 25 years of service as well to the town. Thank you. And in precinct 8, we have Thomas O'Connor with 25 years of service to the town. In precinct 1, we have Ruth Baltopoulos with 30 years of service to the town. In precinct 2, we have Karen Friedman Hanna, also with 30 years. Thank you. In precinct 6, Susan Kiernan with 30 years. Thank you. In precinct 3, Katie Conlon with 40 years of service. In precinct 3 as well, Rick Neely with 40 years of service. And of course, 4 and 4A, Marina Manning Cronin with 64 years of service to the town. Thank you. Now I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge some people that we've lost this year. First, we have Richard Ben James Casey, a town employee for the DPW for 46 years and a town meeting member for 21 years. Joseph F. Murphy, a member of the Milton Housing Authority for 30 years, a member of the Milton School Building Committee for 10 years, a town meeting member for 45 years, and an election officer for 15. And Richard Edward Sweeney, a town meeting member for 44 years. If we could take a moment of silence for those that we've lost this year. Thank you. And now I will ask Senator Driscoll to come and address town meeting. Senator Driscoll. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Moderator Dellon. Good evening to you all. Thank you, Town Administrator, to the Select Board, our Planning Board, our School Committee, of course, our Warrant Committee. I look back at my notes the first time that I addressed the town meeting back in 2017, and I made reference to the fact that my son, Will, wouldn't be able to make it because it was past his bedtime. He was 2 years old at the time. And today, I'm able to be here because Robbie and Will's baseball games got canceled because of the weather. And otherwise, they're going to hopefully be going to bed soon, but we'll see. To my colleagues in government, Representative Wells, Representative Fluker Oakley, good evening as well, Clerk Galvin, and all of you, newly and returning town meeting members. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I will be brief because I know you always have a full agenda ahead of you. And it's been over 100 days since I started serving as state senator. And over the past 4 months, it continues to be a great honor and a privilege to work and to have the opportunity to represent all of you in our community on Beacon Hill. Tonight, I'd like to leave you with a few brief key points that I think are relevant to you as town meeting members and your work in this room and our work collectively in government for this great town. The policy that I had while serving as state rep will continue as serving as state senator, and that means that things that are passed here at the select board level, a home rule petition, or in this room at town meeting, I will do my part as they reach the legislature to advance those forward in the process when they cross my desk. I engaged in this policy most recently last summer regarding the school building land swap issue, and as soon as that reached my desk when I was then state rep, we moved it within 30 days forward in the process. And again, I respect the work that's done in this room and will continue to push those home rules forward as I see them come across. I do only ask that you give your reps and senator time to react. There was one, I don't exactly remember the year, but there was one time when we received a home rule petition in December at the end of the 2-year legislative process, and that is not enough time to pass something. So as many of you know, and those of you that don't, that it may be new for really your first town meeting as a member, a lot of times home rule petitions can take about 6 months to move through one chamber, and then we need at least 30 days in the other chamber to pass it through. So just to give you that information. I also wanted to just speak briefly on the MBTA Communities Act and how I see it right now in Beacon Hill. I know this continues to be an extremely divisive issue for us as a community. I know that finding a path forward is still a work in progress, and I thank those members here in this room that are working to save space for those conversations and having them productively and constructively to try and find a path forward on this tough issue for us all. Sharing my view as state senator, I want to make sure that Milton is treated fairly under the law under its guidelines and regulations and treated fairly in the process as we continue to talk with the administration on this issue. I commend the planning board for their work in developing and moving forward a 10% plan. I continue to seek reclassification of Milton from HLC and the administration. And here is part of what I see and why I continue to pursue that reclassification. Milton has been designated in the highest tier and has been asked to provide a zoning plan with an outsized number of units under the MBTA community regulations. For me, this continues to not only be about this current requirement, the current plan that you probably vote on at some point in this next year, it's about the future administrations, whether it's the current one or a future administration, or legislation that may be put forward in which these tiers are continued to be used for a zoning plan or a housing production goal. If Milton continually finds itself in that bucket of only 12 communities that are in this highest tier, we will continue to be asked to do a very high and what I feel is an outsized number. And so yes, it's about the decisions that you all make and the plans that you'll work on here, but it's also about the future and making sure that we're in the right place. Because as I talk to colleagues and constituents, I get the question, why can't Milton come in line with MBTA communities? What's going on? And that's a fair question. And as I explain it to them, and I explain that Milton is in the bucket of only 12 communities, and I ask where they're listed, they may be commuter rail or adjacent, and if we were in that bucket of 60 communities and adjacent, we would probably be able to find a plan that worked for us. And the conversation kind of changes. Oh, I thought Milton was just trying to get out of it completely. And that's not the case for most of us. We're trying to find a path forward, and the amount of units, whether it's the 25% plan, has just been too much. And then I talk about the fact that we're not a zero, and that if we were in that bucket, there's a common refrain that, I hadn't heard that explained that way before. Milton is an MBTA community. I'll continue to seek a solution that treats the town fairly. I'll continue to seek that solution. You have a role in this, and I think that a 10% plan is a solid step. It would certainly help the conversation with colleagues on Beacon Hill, with constituents and inside and outside the district. And it would help those negotiations and conversations that we're having with the administration in terms of trying to find a solid path forward. In closing, and most importantly, I want to make sure that you know that my door is always open to you and your neighbors. My office is dedicated to ensuring that we address all questions and concerns that we receive. And if you need help finding an answer on a state issue, if you're dealing with a state agency, you or your family members or your neighbors, RMV, unemployment, things that can be nameless, faceless agencies, please don't hesitate to reach out. We have ways to connect and try and find an answer. The answer might be no, but we'll find who's the right person to talk to and get you an answer. My official website is BillDriscollJr.com. We'll continue to update things there every couple of weeks as the session goes on. You can follow along as this two-year session proceeds. Holding office for you and for Milton has been a great responsibility and a great honor. I look forward to continuing to be a part of the team with you and as elected officials at the local and up to the State House level and getting things done. I'm excited to continue this work for the town of Milton in the next 100 days and beyond. So good luck with your town meeting. Congratulations, Madam Moderator, and I look forward to everything you do in the next couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Driscoll. I have been asked by Ms. Kristen Bagley-Jones and Ms. Linda Lee Sheridan for permission to say a few words in recognition of Mr. Glenn Pavlicek for his many years of service to our town, which I've granted this request. So, Ms. Bagley-Jones and Ms. Sheridan, thank you.
Take a moment while everyone joins us up here. the screen? Thank you, Madam Moderator, for allowing us to speak tonight. The choreographer is at work. Thank you, Madam Moderator, for allowing us to speak tonight. I am Linda Lee Sheridan, town meeting member from Precinct 9, and I rise tonight with my former school committee members to recognize and celebrate a dedicated servant of the town of Milton, Dr. Glenn Pavlicek. I am joined tonight by school committee members who collectively served on the school committee for more than 80 years. Kristen, just wave when I announce your name, please. Kristen Bagley-Jones, Elaine Craighead, Kevin Donahue, Margaret Eberhardt, Paul Hogan, Mary Kelly, Becky Padera, Ada Rose Marin, Laurie Stillman, Sheila Varela, Leroy Walker, Betty White, and Mike Zulis.
Hi, everybody. So Glenn Pavlicek have served the town of Milton directly for years. Glenn began his political career in Milton about 30 years ago when he stepped up as a parent to serve as the Tucker's PTO first president. He was one of the first males to sit on the board. There goes Glenn, breaking barriers. Town meeting member for 25 years, just stepping down this year. Glenn was also the brains behind the MMM, the More Money for Milton Club, comprised of Laurie Stillman, Byrne Lovely, our deceased loved former school committee member, Ada Rose Marin, and Jim May, who tried to educate the town about Milton's unfair and inadequate Chapter 70 school funding formula. This was about 25 years ago. It was Glenn who understood the intricacies of this complicated policy and allowed them to join knowledgeably with the Speaker of the House and Joint Budget Committee at the State House to help educate them about Milton's disadvantage. Glenn was a warrant committee member for 4 years. He was also the chair of the warrant committee for 2.5 years. He was on the school building committee for 7 years, 9 years on the school committee. Thank you, Linda Lee. We have our papers here, and 4 years of that as chair. As a school committee member, Glenn brought his experience as a professor and union official at a state college and financial wisdom to contract negotiations with teachers to help secure a fair settlement for both the town and the teachers. When he stepped down from the school committee, the school department was in need of an assistant superintendent of business, and he ably served in that role for 9 years until 2020 when he retired. However, his successor only served for 2 years, and Glenn was called back to that position for 2 more years. Again, a need rose, and Glenn said yes when asked back to serve part-time as the assistant superintendent overseeing human resources from 2024 to 2025, a role he retired from this spring. As you walk out of the building tonight, please look at the right side of the building for the school building plaque that honors Glenn and many others for the beautiful new schools that I will always call them new schools to me, the schools that we have that our kids get to enjoy today. And Linda Lee is just going to say a few more words and then we're done.
Imagine 30 years of service as a volunteer and a staff in the town of Milton. In his free time, Glenn has also served as the treasurer of Milton Music Fest and Fireworks for the past 13 years. There are countless personal qualities that anyone who has worked with Glenn greatly admire. He is smart, dedicated, compassionate, and knowledgeable. He is kind and willing to help anyone, even-tempered, and the consummate team player. Glenn is the person who not only knows the math and the numbers, but has the educational, legal, and financial acumen to address any issue. That's why everyone who worked with Glenn looked to him for his expertise and information. We are proud to celebrate him here tonight, but most importantly, we, former school committee members, are proud to call Glenn Pavlicek our friend. He is no longer a town meeting member, but hopefully he's watching from home tonight. So please join us in thanking Glenn for his service.
Thank you, Ms. Sheridan and Ms. Bagley Jones. Before proceeding with the business of the meeting, there are certain preliminary matters to be taken up. Permission has been requested for certain members and personnel of the school committee, planning board, board of health, and other boards, committees, and departments who are not town meeting members to sit on the floor with other members of their respective boards, committees, and departments, with the understanding, of course, that they will not vote. Hearing no objection from the body, such permission will be and hereby is afforded. Thank you. Permission is also hereby granted to Milton Access Television to televise these proceedings. Also, please note that as is customary, there are 2 side aisle microphones, each with 3 seats in the front row, reserved for those waiting to be recognized to speak. Please note that as set forth in Rule 7 of the warrant, the relevant Massachusetts general laws, the bylaws of the town of Milton as applicable, and town meeting time, 4th edition, shall be the official rules of this meeting. Town meeting members interested in the procedural rules are advised to purchase or check out from the library a new copy of town meeting time, as there are rules in the 4th edition that have changed from the previous 3rd edition. There's a helpful appendix at the end detailing the differences between editions 3 and 4 for those wishing to learn of the changes via a handy summary. Please note that where there are such changes, the applicable rules remain the 4th edition as set forth in your warrant. The rules of procedure of this meeting have been summarized in the warrant, copies of which have been made available by mail to town meeting members at town hall, online, and in the front of the room, and therefore will not be reviewed in detail. As these are the rules summarized in the warrant and provided in advance to the town meeting members, barring any objection, these shall be the rules of the meeting. Hearing no objection, the rules as summarized in the warrant are accordingly the rules of this town meeting. As a reminder, this meeting shall use the electronic voting system established by the prior town moderator and the town meeting, and accordingly, no voice vote shall be held. Rather, the vote shall be displayed as recorded by the electronic voting system. In the event that 7 members stand in their place, the moderator will display the results of the vote by the town meeting member's name. Time will be given for members to stand. Should there be any issues with standing, kindly notify me, the moderator. As a further reminder, as I mentioned, there are microphones made available to you on either side of the front of the room. Individuals who are not town meeting members wishing to speak are requested to kindly inform the moderator, and permission may be accordingly granted to registered voters in the town. Please do not use the podium microphone in the center without advance permission. That is reserved generally for people who are making presentations. At this time, and pursuant to Rule 14 of our warrant, speakers are strictly limited to 10 minutes without prior consent by the moderator for additional time, which is largely reserved for town employees and members of boards and committees providing presentations. The moderator shall keep the time, and any questions shall be directed to the moderator. Pursuant to Rule 15, a consent agenda listing all the articles which, based upon the records of recent town meetings, the moderator deems to be non-controversial, was posted on the town website, emailed to all town meeting members, made available at the front of the room. If 5 members raise their hands to remove an article from the consent agenda, then that article shall be removed from the consent agenda and shall be debated and voted upon in accordance with the provisions of town meetings rules. All articles remaining in the consent agenda shall be voted on without debate with a 2/3 vote required for adoption. Certain matters coming before a town meeting require a 2/3 vote. In accordance with Chapter 448 of the Acts of 1996, I'll entertain the following procedural motion that allows the moderator to declare that a 2/3 vote majority has occurred. The motion is, on matters requiring a 2/3 vote, by statute, account need not be taken unless the vote so declared is immediately questioned by 7 or more members of the body as provided in General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 15. Will someone say so moved? So moved. Can they? Thank you. Is there a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion is unanimous and the motion carries. As I mentioned, we have in place electronic voting. Mr. Mallett, the town's IT director, will operate the electronic voting system. At the conclusion of an article's discussion, rather than calling for a voice vote, I will call for an electronic vote. All those in favor of the motion shall press the yes button, which is A. All those opposed shall press the no button, which is B. Those in abstention may either press nothing or press the abstain button, which is C. Kindly do not press any other buttons other than yes, no, or abstention, as it may affect the radio signal of your clicker. At any time during the time allotted to vote, you may change your vote, but at the end of the voting period, which will be displayed on the screen, I will announce that the vote has been closed and the results shall be displayed. I will read both the percent and the numerical vote count so that the town clerk, Susan Galvin, may record them for the record. As is customary, I will include only the yes and no votes in the total. Now, if we're ready, we will run a test vote for electronic voting system. Are there any questions about this before we begin? Seeing none. Can you go a week without your cell phone? Yes is A, no is B, and C is abstain. If anyone's clicker did not light up or sees any issues with the technology, please let us know. That we will close the vote. Most people cannot go for more than a week without their cell phone, with 148 no, 69 yes, and 24 people abstaining. If anybody has any issues, please let us know. Mr. Mallett will now go through the names. Please check your name and make sure that it was as you intended. Again, Mr. Mallett is on the other side of the stage. Thank you. Again, if anyone has any questions or concerns, if they can kindly head to the front of the room, where you'll be assisted by Mr. Mallett and his team. And while we do that, I will ask that we begin with the presentation by the Chair of the Warrant Committee, Mr. Tom Caldwell. Mr. Caldwell, thank you. You are recognized.
Good evening. My name is Tom Caldwell. I'm a town meeting member in Precinct 6, and I'm the chair of your warrant committee. Bear with me. I'd like to extend some thanks on behalf of the warrant committee. Greetings to the Honorable Select Board, town meeting members, and citizens of the town of Milton. The warrant committee welcomes you all to the 2025 annual town meeting. I, as chair of the warrant committee on its behalf, would like to congratulate the newest members of the select board, the newly elected and re-elected members of our school committee, the re-elected members of our planning board, and all the other newly and re-elected officials throughout town government, including the Board of Health, Parks Department, Library, Cemetery, the Board of Assessors, and the Housing Authority. I'd also like to thank our state senator for coming here tonight and addressing the body. I would also like to extend a very special congratulations to all the new town meeting members here with us tonight. Congratulations on your election and placing your hat in the ring to directly participate in one of our oldest forms of government. I would also like to extend a special congratulations to our new moderator and warrant committee alumnae and my Precinct 6 neighbor, Ms. Elizabeth Dillon. Congratulations on your election to the position of moderator to the town of Milton.
Thank you.
The warrant committee would also like to thank our former moderator, Mr. Robert Hiss, for his service to the town in that same capacity and all the guidance and assistance he gave the warrant committee and the town meeting over the last 9 years. So now on to the work at hand. For fiscal year 2026, the warrant committee has recommended 2 budgets to this body within the annual warrant. The first recommendation, as listed, is a non-contingent budget, which would result in moderate budgetary cuts in the general government of the town departments and significant budget reductions within the school department, which could include up to 76 positions terminated within the schools, a significant number of those being teaching positions, non-instructional administrative position, and other optional programming. In your warrant, the next budget recommended is a contingent budget that is designed by the warrant committee in part to continue level services within the town across all departments, including some program cuts within the school department that do not include district-wide teaching or administrative positions. The contingent recommendations within this budget, within this warrant, are only possible since the town on April 29th, 2025 approved raising the tax levy beyond the allowable 2.5% increase provided by state law for an override amount of $9.5 million. Pursuant to our responsibilities to this body, under the Town of Milton bylaws, the warrant committee, as I indicated, has prepared with the assistance of the town administrator and finance director 2 budgets for your review, as I stated, a contingent and non-contingent. The warrant committee, your warrant committee, spent many nights discussing the general and school budget, the override amount set by our select board, and after vigorous, very lengthy debates, comments, and serious reflection over approximately 80 hours, the warrant committee recommends to this body to accept the contingent budget set forth in this warrant, and most importantly, the budget level that was approved by the voters of this town. And if I may, Madam Moderator, would you like me to present
Yes, you
additional
may.
information?
You may. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may, ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to the warrant, I have a very brief slide presentation that I would like to present to you, just discussing some of the numbers that you have reviewed in the warrant. Next slide, please. So this is the number that we're looking to get to, $149,026,115. That is our general fund appropriation that appears in the first pages of your warrant. Next slide. How do we get to that number? Okay, next slide, please. You can see there's going to be a levy increase of 2.5%, approximately $2,477,872. That is the regular levy increase the town sees from year to year. That will be included in this year's budget. We expected potential new growth of $1 million, and of course the authorization to override Proposition 2.5 in the amount of $9.5 million. Next slide, please. So this slide here represents a final breakdown of the contingent recommendation. As you can see, we start by the property tax levy limit of $101,944,061. The 2.5% average levy increase that was noted in the previous slide of $2,477,872. Our projected new growth of $1 million, and the 9.5 override amount authorized by our voters, which brings us to a total of our 2026 property tax levy limit of $114,921,933. We draw from other revenue sources through the budget of over $20 million, and that leads us to our total general fund revenue of $149,026,115. Now, what does that mean? Next slide. So essentially, what this does mean is the voters have authorized the town meeting can allocate this below amount, $114,921,933, to the town of Milton fiscal year 2026 general fund appropriation. Next slide, please. So how much will our taxes go up from fiscal year 25 to 26? The contingent recommendation is $12,977,872, or 13.1% above last year's levy amount. Next slide, please. And also, as I indicated, included is the non-contingent recommendation. And this is our what we would see yearly prior to this year, which included an average 2.5% increase to the tax levy. And under the non-contingent recommendation in the warrant, the increase to the levy would be $3,477,872. Next slide, please. This slide represents what as a warrant committee would know was frequently discussed in our meetings and amongst members of the public. So this is our average single-family home, which is currently assessed at over $1 million, $1,028,457. Would have an estimated fiscal year 2026 tax bill of $12,857, which is an increase of $1,063, 13.1% increase. The median single-family home, assessed at $889,400, would have an estimated fiscal year 2026 tax bill of $11,119, which would be an increase of $920. Now, I do note in the bottom of this slide, this is an operational override. This increase is permanent, as we all know, and would increase each subsequent year under the limits of Proposition 2.5. Next slide, please. In terms of the non-contingent budget, next slide is residential property owners without the override. Without an override vote by this, without the allocation of the money authorized by the town voters, by this body, without an override, the average single-family home would have an estimated fiscal tax bill of $11,794, or an increase of $389. And the median single-family home would see an estimated fiscal year tax bill of $10,199, an increase of $336. Next slide, please. And this is an informative chart that was pulled off, it was posted to our town website. And this gives an estimation, town meeting, of approximately the last 10 years of our tax bills here in the town. And as the slide indicates, in this time span, as you can see by the numbers, the average annual increase is approximately 3.8%. And that includes the override that was approved for fiscal year 2018. And you can see how that number jumps, but on the average, we're about 3.8%. Next slide, please. So this is a very important slide, and this is something that was discussed in light of the override figure that was brought to the warrant committee for discussion. And this is the growth of taxes versus the growth of property value. And this is a slide that includes an extra couple of years. The previous one was 2016 to present. This is 2014. And as you can see by the graph here, between 2014 and 23, property taxes have gone up 40%. And that includes the 2018 overrides. And property values overall have gone up 81% in that time period. But I think what's very important, and was noted in our comment, is that home values continue to outpace the levy. And that is a very important figure in terms of your investment in your personal property. However, it's something that should be watched, because if the situation becomes reversed, we're going to kind of have a negative return on our property investment. But like I said, we are, according to the slide in conversations with the warrant committee, we are certainly outpacing with our home values the levy. So we are in good position. Next slide. And this is an illustrative slide. Some of you may have seen this before. This is our fiscal 26 spending above the fiscal year 25 budget. And it breaks down. These are really our 5 major departments in the town, or excuse me, 4 major departments in one fund. So schools are about 40% of our spending increase, 40.5% to be precise in this contingent budget. Public safety comes in at a 8.9% increase. DPW and other departments at 6.6%. And benefits, you see a 22.5% increase in our benefits. That's medical and otherwise. A huge jump from previous years. And of course, we have our stabilization funds where we're looking to fund and put money aside in the case of any financial emergencies moving forward. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. So that's essentially a very, very, very brief budget overview in terms of our override. In your review of the warrant committee, as I indicated, has voted favorably on all allocations to not only our schools in Article 24, but all general government. We ask that you consider the contingent budget. However, as always, as a legislative body of the town of Milton, you are well within your right to do otherwise. Thank you very much, and looking forward to discussing the matters in the warrant with you moving forward. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Now I'd like to recognize the chair of our select board, Mr. Richard Wells. Mr. Wells, please.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Good evening. I'd like to begin by welcoming the 2 newest members of the Select Board, Ms. Megan Haggerty and Mr. Winston Daly. If you would give them a nice round of applause. They just completed their first, and I predicted, the easiest Select Board meeting they're ever going to have in their careers. Those of you who have been on the Select Board know what I'm talking about. I'd also like to recognize and thank our 2 former colleagues who are here tonight, both long-standing supporters of this community in multiple roles. In Ms. Musto's case, from town meeting member to warrant committee to Board of Health to Select Board. And Ms. Bradley, from town meeting member to warrant committee to Select Board. I can't see her smile from up here because she's always comes in every night with such passion and questions. And Ms. Musto, who does so much homework and researches every single article and every single thing that came before us. Both of them love this community like so many others who serve, and I ask all of you to please stand and give them a round of applause. Finally, the term thank you isn't used enough in this world. And 41 years ago, this year, I was interviewed by Mr. Cronin to become a member of the police department. I'm a long way from there, as you can see. I don't know how that happened, but here I am. But tonight marks my final year and my final time this annual town meeting as chair of the select board. And anyone who's ever run for public office knows that it takes courage to put your name out there and ask people to vote for you, to trust you. And once you're on the select, particularly for this board, once you're on this select board, as my esteemed colleague, former colleague Katie Conlon always says, be prepared as chair, roll up your sleeves for the best full-time, part-time job you're ever going to have in your life, because it's a full-time, every day, every minute. This year has been no exception. A 9.5 override, when I first heard it, I shuddered. But here we are. But I couldn't leave without saying thank you to so many people who contribute each and every day to make this community what it is. The people in our office, Town Administrator Nick Milano, Assistant Town Administrator Nick Connors, our quiet but omnipresent Administrative Director Lynn DiNapoli, the Warrant Committee, our Town Accountant Amy Dexter, Town Clerk Sue Galvin, all of the department heads of every department and their employees, because without them, I can tell you this, they are the nuts and bolts that make the machine called the town of Milton move every day, every hour of every year. And we owe them all a debt of gratitude. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank especially the school committee and now smiling former chair, Lizzie Carroll, for all the meetings that we've had as chairs in the past 12 months, day in and day out. The pressure of not just building a new school, the operational override, the reserve fund transfers, finding the deficits, all those things were immense. And Lizzie, I want to say thank you to you for being there every moment of every day, and you as well, Mark. Mark, always the optimist. Always the optimist. Let's go for 12 million. Okay. Always the optimist. But I thank you very much for everything that you did to help make this year for me very hard. And my final thank you, I'd be remiss. So it's clear I've been in a new job for 100 days, just about 100 days, and it is a distinct privilege, and I'm so honored, and I'm not going to get into that, but one of the most special things about being in the House of Representatives in Massachusetts is that when you're on the floor and you refer to a female colleague, you begin that term with the words, gentle lady. So to the gentle lady from Precinct 2, Kathy Fagan, and the gentle lady from Precinct 9, Linda Lee Sheridan, thank you for believing in me. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Wells. We will now proceed to the consent agenda, which was posted online, emailed to the town meeting members, and made available to those in the front of the room. These will also be being displayed as well. Please note that, pursuant to Rule 15 of the warrant, the consent agenda would normally be mailed to you 5 business days in advance of the town meeting. But due to a procedural technicality and an abundance of caution, in order that we may have a consent agenda if the body prefers, I am requesting that for the purposes of this town meeting only, that we suspend the requirement in the rule that 5 days mailing be required, and instead, because this information has been provided, that we require that it only be provided in the front of Town Hall prior to the meeting, In the event that the body chooses not to suspend the rules, we will proceed without the consent agenda and consider each article in the normal course. Do I hear a motion for the purpose of this meeting only to eliminate the requirement only in Rule 15 that it be mailed 5 business days prior to town meeting? Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay. The ayes have it with 1 nay and the remainder yes. The motion carries. As is customary, a single affirmative motion with no debate will be held on each of the articles in the consent agenda unless 5 members request to remove the article from the agenda pursuant to Rule 15 of the warrant. The agenda is presented on the screen. If any 5 members raise their hand to strike the consent agenda, this shall be without debate, and these will be stricken. At the end, as I mentioned earlier, we will vote on the entire consent agenda, which requires a 2/3 vote. I will now go through, and again, 5 people must raise their hand to remove any article from the consent agenda. I will give time. Article number 2, to amend the fiscal year 2025 Appropriations Reserve Fund, found on page 17 of the warrant, which will remain in the consent agenda. Article number 3, authorize the treasurer to enter into compensating balance agreements, page 18 of the warrant. Seeing no hands, that will remain. Article number 6, collective bargaining wage set aside, page 21 of your warrant. Seeing no hands, that will remain. Article 7, employee benefits appropriation, page 22 of the warrant. Seeing no hands. Article 8, Chapter 61, position classifications and wage increases, on pages 30 through 31 of the warrant. Seeing none. Article 9, public safety appropriation, pages 31 through 32. I see 2 hands, 3 hands, 4 hands, 5 hands. That one will be removed. Thank you. Public safety appropriation will be removed. Thank you. Article number 10, general government appropriation, pages 33 through 35 of the warrant. Seeing no hands, that will remain. Article 11, boards and committees appropriation, pages 36 through 37. Seeing no hands. Article 12, public works appropriation. Seeing no hands. Article 13, water enterprise fund appropriation. See no hands. Article 14, sewer enterprise fund appropriation. I see no hands. Article 15, stormwater enterprise fund appropriation. Again, no hands. Article 16, appropriation for water system improvements. I see no hands raised. Article 17, appropriation for sewer system, improvements. No hands raised. Article 18, appropriation for stormwater system improvements. I see no hands raised. Article 19, Board of Health appropriation. Seeing no hands raised, that will remain. Article 20, library appropriation. I see no hands raised. Article 21, cemetery appropriation. I see no hands raised. Article 22, Parks and Recreation appropriation. I see no hands raised. Article 23, Consolidated Facilities appropriation. Again, I see no hands raised. We skipped 24. Article 25, Blue Hills Regional Technical School appropriation. I see no hands. Article 26, Interest and Maturing Debt appropriation. Seeing no hands. Article 27, Rescind Unissued Debt Authorizations. I see no hands raised. Then we skip to Article 32, Authorize Resolving Fund Expenditure Limits. I see no hands raised. Article 33, PEG Access Enterprise Fund Appropriation. I see no hands raised. Article 34, Community Preservation Fund Appropriation. I see no hands raised. We skip 35, Article 36, to authorize the Select Board to accept, abandon, or relocate easements. I see no hands raised. Therefore, we have removed Article 9 only, and the remainder remain on the consent agenda. Thank you. Those that were not on the consent agenda are to hear the report of the town officers, Article 1, capital budget appropriation, Article 4, Article 5, audit appropriation, Article 24, school appropriation, 28, stabilization fund appropriation, 29, to establish and appropriate funds to an operating budget stabilization fund, Article 30, to establish a special education reserve fund, Article 31, reserve fund appropriation, 35, Community Preservation Committee projects recommendation, Article 37, light trespass, Article 38, accessory dwelling units, and Article 39, site plan. I will now entertain a vote on the consent agenda. All those in favor, if you can kindly press 1. All those opposed, if you can kindly press no or B. And all of those who wish to abstain, if you can kindly abstain or press C. The vote is now closed. 99% yes, 1% no, 241 yes, and 2 no. That is our consent agenda. Thank you. And now we will move to Article 1 to hear and act upon the report of the town accountant and other town officers and committee. And now we will hear from former moderator, Mr. Brian Walsh, Chair of the Fire Station Building Committee. Mr. Walsh, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. And after 33 years as a town meeting member, that's an interesting and welcome change. All the best.
Thank you.
So I just want to briefly take a few minutes to give you an update about on the fire station project. We're about to construct the East Milton Station, Engine 2. And before I do that, I do want to acknowledge our town administrator chose to put a picture of our fire headquarters on our annual report, which I think is terrific, especially since it's not only, my humble opinion, a beautiful building, the new fire headquarters. Yeah, can I say something? Yeah. It's not only a beautiful building, unfortunately it's a little hidden as everyone rides by on Canton Avenue behind, well, I won't say not so beautiful town hall, but our town hall. So it was great to see this on the cover, and thank you, Ms. Milano. So May is a big month for our East Milton Station. We have up above me here is the artist drawing, artist rendering of the new station, which it'll be, actually the station, the work began physically today. They actually, if you're down in the East Milton area, you may have noticed they've already established the fencing around the site as they're going to begin the construction. It is, by the way, it is directly to the left, if you're on Adams Street, to the left of our St. Agatha's Rectory. You won't miss it now with all the fencing. Project will take about 13 months to complete. We have reserved a room called the Gathering Space in the lower St. Agatha's Church to begin community informational meetings The first session, we hope, will be next Thursday, May 15th at 7:30. I'll work with the East Milton Neighborhood Association, Mr. Rhines, who's and others that are members of our warrant committee. And I will keep town meeting up on the progress. And if I may, Madam Moderator, I know you've already made the note, but I would like to, it's a small club, but I would like to personally thank our former moderator, Bob Hiss, for his service. And thank you and all the best, Madam Moderator.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Now we will hear from the Audit Committee member, Mr. Chris Trickus.
Hello, everybody. Christopher J. Tracus from Meadowview Road and a member of the Milton Audit Committee. Our chair, Carolyn Ferguson, asked me to give the presentation tonight, so I thank her for that honor. The members of the committee are Carolyn Ferguson, Jeremy Zadima, myself, and Ellen Needham. Two of our members had to depart from the committee because the accounting firms that they work for just don't allow people to be on municipal committees. And they were Ali Lockberg, Michael Sutphin. I mean, they did many years of service. They did a great job, and, you know, we all thank them for their excellent work. The audit was recently completed. The audit committee met with the accounting firm. Basically, we got an unqualified opinion, which is the best opinion you can get. So that's good. Amy Dexter has the financial statements, and I'm sure they're available to anybody that wants to see them. We all looked at them. I mean, they're, you know, it was good. The accounting firm changed composition and names twice in the last 2 years, which is kind of unusual. It went from Powers and Sullivan to Markham to CBiz. It's just a trend in the accounting industry. The kind of mid-sized firms are consolidating. It's not a bad thing. It's not an unusual thing. It's just, it is what it is, as the expression goes. And, you know, it's just what it is. The partner, however, stayed the same, which is good. A man named Mr. Craig Peacock. And that was a good thing. There was that consistency from year to year. You know, he does a good job. He's very knowledgeable. He's also, a very decent guy and reasonable to work with. He knows what he's doing. I mean, if there's something that, you know, seems to be a little off, I mean, he'll say it. But, you know, he says it in a very kind and decent way. And he knows what he's doing. So that was a good thing. You know, as I said, that there were a few, just a couple of comments in the past. There was actually no comments for the June 30th, 2024 year. So that's a positive thing. There was a comment from June 30, 2022 that has been finalized and resolved. Had to do with the general long-term debt account group, and that's been resolved. There is one from June 30, 2023 that's still somewhat open, having to do with purchase orders, and not every department is using purchase orders yet. Amy Dexter is working on that, and that should be cleared up soon. as I said, June 30, 2024, there were no issues, so that's a good thing. And I do want to also mention the treasurer, Joanna McCarthy, and the town accountant, Amy Dexter, did an excellent job during this audit. I mean, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of requests from the auditors. A lot of documents have to be obtained. They just did, they do tremendous work. So we want to acknowledge that too. So I think I've said everything that I need to say. If you have any questions, just please follow the protocol, direct them through the moderator while I'm here. If not, I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tracus.
Okay, thank you.
So the motion is as the Warrant Committee's recommendation on Article 1, that the town vote to accept the report of the town accountant and other town officers and committees. I'll wait for it to be displayed. And we will open the matter for a vote in a moment. Article 1, press A for yes, no for no B, excuse me.
Excuse me.
Excuse me, yes.
I'd
yes,
like
sir.
to speak on this.
Oh, yes. Okay, you're recognized. Thank you.
Okay, Jeff Stone, Precinct 1, and congratulations again, Madam Moderator, for taking this position. I just wanted to clarify with Mr. Tracus that this audit, to what extent it audits the entire town. Does it extend to departments such as the public schools?
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Tracus, if you can. See if we can grab him. Oh, thank you, Ms. Dexter. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amy Dexter, the Finance Director, Town Accountant. The year-end financial statement audit does cover both town and schools. They do their test work on a sample basis, and the largest part of the school is when they're looking at the federal grants. All of the financial statements can be found on the town website under the accounting department. Does that answer?
Thank you. Any further questions? You can come down to the microphone. Thank you for that. If not, again, the motion before the body is that the town vote to accept the report of the town accountant and other town officers and committees. Article 1, A is yes, B is no, and C is abstain. Thank you. We have 99% yes, 1% no, 241 yes, 0 no. Thank you. Article 1 passes. Article 2, reserve fund appropriations, was passed by consent. Article 3, compensating balance agreements authorization, was passed by consent. And now we move to Article 4, capital budget appropriation. The recommendation by the Warrant Committee being that the town appropriate the sum of $5,793,500 to fund the capital projects as listed in the warrant. Anybody would like to speak to Article 4? Yes? You are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Moderator Dillon. My name is Tom Sharkey from Precinct 5. Just a question, not an assertion, but a question. As I was looking at the Warrant Committee's report on the capital projects and the, particularly the bonded capital projects and the fire engine, I looked at the report, FY24, the annual report of the fire department, and it showed about 4,500 calls that they responded to. Only 67 of those calls were for an actual fire. And so the question I'm raising is, do we need a fire truck, or is, given the rotation that we have of every 15 years wanting to replace the fire trucks with so limited use of the trucks for the combating of fires, could money be spent for emergency vehicles? I find, for example, when there's medical emergencies, we see a fire a pumper come in, a fire truck come in along with an EMT into the place where I live. It seems to be overkill. It seems to be more than what's necessary. But so it's a question. When we look at so few fires that are actually occurring, could our fire engines be lasting much longer than 15 years? It's $1,100,000 to get a new fire engine. So that was my question.
Thank you. Chief Madden, I see, is coming down to answer that question. Thank you.
Good evening, Chris Madden, Fire Chief. To understand your question is, why do we send a fire truck on medical calls? I'm sorry. Why do we send a fire engine on a medical call? Is that the I'm just trying to understand your question. With only 67 fires. All right, so fire department, we send an engine on almost every call. And what it is a giant toolbox. So everything that we carry, whether it's from equipment to fight a fire, it's equipment to help on a medical, it's equipment for a car accident, it's equipment for a water rescue, any kind of rescue that we need, it carries a ladder, it carries every piece of equipment that we have. We take it with us everywhere we go. So if we're out on a call for a medical, and all of a sudden we get call for a car accident, we can just immediately go from one to the other. Many times during the day, we average probably 15 runs a day. We could go from incident to incident to incident where we can't go back to the firehouse to get the equipment that you would need if you took a smaller truck or anything like that. So the standard response on a fire is 2 engines, a ladder. So, we need to make sure that we have all the equipment with us. And when you look at fire trucks, they're diesel engines, and they're supposed to run for long hours cross country. The fire trucks, they need the diesel engines to carry the weight of the truck, the water, et cetera, and equipment. But now they run short and fast, where the average is probably 3-4 miles, where the trucks are built for long-term running over the road. So it just puts a lot of wear and tear on the trucks. The roads, we put in speed humps, we put in speed bumps. The fire trucks, the wear and tear of the trucks. And it's not even just the diesel engine, it's the pump itself that gives us water. You look at some of the other things. The national response time was supposed to have 4 to 6 minute response time to an incident, to a fire. So if we don't have that equipment with us and we don't have that, take it everywhere, then we're going to extend that. So I hope I answered your question. Okay, thank you. And I will say that the town mechanic, Mr. Charlie Colligan, does a fantastic job maintaining our apparatus. He works hard to keep it in the best shape it can. It's something that, you can't fail. If we go to get in the truck, we need it to start right away. So the plan is to keep it in service for 15 years, and then 5 years as a backup. And that's the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Madden. I see no one else with any other questions. So again, Article 4, the motion on the floor is that the town appropriate the sum of $5,793,500 to fund the capital projects listed on your screen, and that to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to sell and issue bonds or notes of the town aggregating not more than $4,880 under and pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 7 and Chapter 44, Section 8 of the Massachusetts General Laws as amended, or any other enabling authority for the purposes listed under the heading Bonded Capital Items, including the payment of costs incidental or related thereto, and to issue bonds or notes of the town therefore, and that the Select Board be and hereby is authorized to accept and expend, in addition to the foregoing appropriation, one or more grants or gifts from any other public or private funding source, and that the sum of $875,500 be appropriated from funds certified by the Department of Revenue as free cash for purposes listed under the heading Non-Bonded Capital Items, and that the sum of $35,000 be appropriated from funds certified by the Department of Revenue as Water Enterprise Fund retained earnings. I will now open Article 4 for a vote. Yes. Oh, thank you. Let's stop the vote for a second. Okay, thank you. So, again, there is no motion to amend. So we will reopen the vote on the motion itself, which I just read, and as it is long, I'm not going to read again, and a 2/3 vote is required. Thank you for pointing that out. %, yes, 2% no, 235 yes, 4 no. The motion passes. Now we will, yes, yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you. It passes by a 2/3 vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Walsh. Now we will move to Article 5, on which you have heard from the Audit Committee. Recommended that the town appropriate the amounts shown in the following tabulation under the heading Recommended Fiscal Year 26, and that to meet said appropriation, the sum of $76,050 be raised from the tax levy. I see no one waiting to stand on this. And therefore, I will open this for a vote on Article 5. Article 5 passes, 233 yes, 2 no. Article 6 was passed by consent, Article 7 by consent, Article 8 by consent, and we have removed Article 9 regarding public safety. If you turn to Article 9. The motion on the floor is that the town appropriate the amount shown in the following tabulation under the heading non-contingent recommendation fiscal year 26, and that the town appropriate the amount shown in the following tabulation under the heading contingent recommendation fiscal year 26, contingent upon passage by the voters of the town of Milton of an override ballot question under Chapter 59, Section 21C of the Massachusetts General Laws, and that to meet said appropriation, the sum of $5,000 be transferred from the dog licenses surcharge account received pursuant to Chapter 187 of the Acts of 1981 for lease law enforcement, and that $17,249,883 be raised from the tax levy. I see no one wishing to speak on this article. Oh, hold on one second.
Thank you, Moderator Dillon. Diane DiTullio Agostino, Precinct 9. And the reason I and others requested, public safety is a real priority. And generally, not that long ago, we would have...
Ma'am, if you can speak a little bit more into the microphone. I think people
Okay.
mentioned that they can't hear you. Thank you.
All right, now can you hear me? Yeah, I'm losing my voice. Okay, we'll get it back here. Over the years, we have generally in the past not included, public safety is on everyone's mind 24/7, and thankfully our police and fire are working 24/7. Not that many years ago, we would have the police chief and the fire chief address what some of the concerns might have been. So I had asked the moderator if we could have the police chief, and I emailed both the police and the fire to discuss some of the top priorities on people's minds, so like traffic enforcement and the stations, although he did address the new stations, some of the manning of the police and the fire. So it would be great to give them a minute or two for the police chief and the fire chief to update not just town meeting members, but many viewing from home. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Did you also introduce yourself? I'm sorry. You did. Okay. Thank you.
The whole thing.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on this article? Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Do the chiefs want to speak regarding Ms. Agostino?
Sorry, can you come to the microphone? Because if you watch it back later on the YouTube, you won't be able to hear what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Does the chiefs want to answer Ms. Agostino's questions?
Sorry, can you introduce yourself?
Sure.
Thank
Sean
you.
Bentley, Precinct 7. Okay. I just was curious. I saw in the warrant that the fire department is currently operating below the level of acceptable services of 17 firefighters per shift, and that the police department does not have an IT position to help with investigations and servers. And I just was curious what the impact of that is on their departments.
Thank you. So I heard two questions there. The first of which was whether or not the chiefs wish to speak to this article. The second of which was specific questions about the budget. Chief Madden, I see coming up. Chief Madden, you're recognized. If you can answer those questions by Mr. Bentley, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Chris Madden, Fire Chief. So the fire department is, we've been level service funded for years. The last time we had an improvement or upgrade to the service that we have for the town of Milton was about 2004, 2005, when we took one of the firefighters and made them the fire prevention officer, the full-time fire prevention officer. And you can imagine how busy the fire prevention officer is now with all the buildings going up. Every time a building permit is issued, we have to inspect that. We inspect the plans, and then I inspect the premises afterwards to make sure it's safe to get the certificate of occupancy. So to your question, so the NFPA standard states that you should have 17 firefighters on scene for a 2.5-story wood frame building fire. The fire department, we have 56 firefighters on staff, so it's broken into 4 groups. We actually have 3 groups of 14 working per day, 1 group of 13, and our minimum staffing to allow for vacation, sick, injured, or whatever is 11 firefighters per day. So that's pretty much our standard. We've had a few retirees in the last few months, so we're pretty much at minimum staffing around the clock right now. So that gives you 11 firefighters on duty every day. And we're below the state, not the state, but the national standards. We should have 17. One of the things that, when working with the town administrator about our budget was, here's our level service funding. This is what we've been doing for the last few years. And then, supplemental budget, we could use. So I put in for 5 firefighters to make all 4 groups 14, and then actually add 1 to 15 to put a second person on the ladder truck. So each engine has an officer, has a lieutenant, and has 2 firefighters with them. The ladder truck has 1 firefighter staffed to it, responding to calls. So we were looking to add a second firefighter to the ladder truck. And then we're also looking to add some staffing, some administrative staff, to put forward programs, help assist with the fire prevention, assist with the 40Bs, to do that. So that's the staffing question that is in there. But, as far as the fire department, the men and women of the fire department are fantastic. They do a fantastic job. They do whatever that is needed to do. And I thank you for your support. I hope I answered everyone's question.
Thank you. I don't know if Chief King is here and if he would like to speak. He is here. I see him coming down. Chief King. Thank you, Chair Wells.
John King, Police Chief. I'll be brief as always, respect for your time, but I'll answer both questions. Diane, the police department's pretty steady course, same number of staff, and we're short about 3 people right now. One's in the academy, one's going to the academy in a couple months. One opening just occurred in April with a retirement, so that's normal. The 2 biggest trends in town, mental health calls are enormous. We have a full-time mental health clinician. In terms of the most dire need, I discussed it with the Warrant Committee, it's IT. We don't have IT staff that we really need for a combination of reasons, from cameras to software systems to investigations. I won't bore you with it, but that's the most pressing need. And did I address? Okay.
Thank you. Seeing no further individuals wishing to comment on Article 9, I will now open it for a vote. Article 9 passes 100% yes, 0% no, 241 yes, 0 no. Thank you. We will now move on to Article 10, which was passed by consent. Article 11, which was passed by consent. Article 12, which was passed by consent. Article 13, which was passed by consent. Article 14, sewer enterprise, passed by consent. Article 15, stormwater enterprise, passed by consent. Article 16, water system improvements, passed by consent. Article 7, passed by consent. Article 18, passed by consent. Article 19, passed by consent. Moving right along. Article 20, passed by consent. Article 21, passed by consent. Article 22, passed by consent. Article 23, passed by consent. And we now move on to Article 4, which is the school budget. What did I say? 24. Doesn't matter. 24. The motion on the floor is that the town appropriate the amount shown in the following tabulation under the heading non-contingent recommendation fiscal year 26, and that the town appropriate the amount shown in the following tabulation under the heading contingent recommendation fiscal year 26, contingent upon passage by the voters of the town of Milton of an override ballot question under Chapter 59, Section 21C of the Massachusetts General Laws, and that to meet said appropriation, the sum of $72,873,914 be raised from the tax levy. And the chair of the school committee, Amanda Serio, would like to speak to this. Ms. Serio, you're recognized. Thank you.
What's that? Good evening. My name is Amanda Serio, and I am the chair of the school committee and town meeting member in Precinct 5. Before we discuss the article, I would just like to congratulate Anna Varghese on her re-election and to welcome Nathan Hutto as the newest member of the school committee. We would also like to thank Dr. Elizabeth Carroll for her leadership over the past 2 years. Lizzie, we appreciate the time that you gave to the school committee, and we're grateful, me especially, I'm very grateful that you've decided to take on the role as vice chair. I would also like to recognize, the other members of the school committee who are present tonight, Bao Chu and Mark Loring. From the Milton Public Schools Central Office tonight, we're joined by Catherine Blake, Assistant Superintendent of Finance, and Dr. Regina Watts, the Acting Superintendent. Dr. Watts will be supporting the district until John Phelan starts his interim superintendent on June 1st. And that is officially the most times I've said superintendent in one sentence. Finally, the school committee would like to express our gratitude to the voters for support and passing the override. We are extremely grateful for everyone who came out to support this. At this point, I would like the moderator to recognize Mark Loring, the chair of the School Budget Finance Subcommittee, who will be presenting on Article 24 on behalf of the school committee.
Mr. Loring, you're recognized. Thank you.
It's okay. Let's see if this works. There we go. Good evening. Mark Loring, School Committee Representative, Chair of the Finance Committee, and Town Meeting Member, Precinct 8. Thank you so much for the time. We've done about, at this point, almost a dozen different budget presentations over the course of the year. We plan on keeping this one short, but certainly welcome any questions at the end. I want to start with thanking the Warrant Committee for all their work and partnership over the last year. They put in a lot of time working with us, providing feedback, asking questions, helping us strengthen our budget process, and we appreciate the recommendation that they provided with this. Also appreciate the work of the Select Board and the partnership within those two boards to come to a townwide budget. Always like to start every budget presentation with just a grounding within the school department's mission. This is kind of what drives the work, and therefore it needs to be what drives our budget. As we think about it, how do we utilize the resources that the town entrusts with us and within our board to make sure we are accomplishing this for our students. And even beyond just our students, they are obviously at the center of what we do, but also our staff and the community at whole, and how do we make sure we are being, as I said, diligent, responsible, respectful of accomplishing everything we need to with each of these constituencies. I want to specifically thank our great staff who have done such amazing work this year through such very trying and challenging times. It has been quite a feat, and we're very, very appreciative of all that they do for our students. This is a dense slide, so I'm not going to read through every detail, but this is a slide we've shown many times before. It essentially just tries to walk through kind of the different aspects of, as we build the budget, what are the pieces that make the budget go up, what are the pieces that make the budget go down. You can see at the very top, that's 67 million, that's the starting point for the current year. There's our current year's fiscal budget, and then that kind of drives all the way down. Salaries is the biggest driver of our budget, as it is with any budget. There are other pieces such as special education costs, which drive that up, other operating costs, transportation costs, facilities. There are also some things that are going down related to some of the cuts we needed to make within our level service budget, which we will get to momentarily. Overall, the budget increase within this year is, from this year to next year, is 8.4%. And this is just some high-level information around our budget. The budget increase for next year is $5.7 million, as you can see in the warrant. It's a decrease from the original ask of $6.4 million, which was what we identified as our level service budget, so the schools will need to see some slight cuts in programming to accommodate that decrease, and that's information we've shared publicly in many presentations previously. We are also reallocating some funds within our current budget to to address some high needs items that could not wait, given that there was not funding above level service. So we are excited to be able to identify funding for implementation of a new ELA curriculum and also address some mandated service costs around supporting our English language learners. And that is a very brief presentation. Again, welcome any questions that folks may have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Loring. I will now open it up for any kind of questions or debates on Article 24. Thank you, sir. You're recognized.
Leroy Walker, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 10. I think we are all pleased that the requested override passed. The implications of it not passing would have been pretty serious. I did do some research in which I learned that this $9.5 million override that we passed was the 5th largest override ever passed in the history of Prop 2.5. That's a 40-year history. So in the 40-year history of Prop 2.5, this was the 5th largest override passed. That's something that we should take as a sobering fact. And I'm pleased, Chair Loring, that you did answer one question that I had, which is, what's the plan going forward? And the slide said that we should not expect to see another override request until fiscal year 30. So that's a good thing. The follow-on question, though, is over the past 2 years, we've had two deficits in the schools. The question is, what did we learn? What do we plan to do differently going forward? And how do we avoid what seems to be a recurrence of deficits in the schools? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. The school committee would like to address. Thank you, Mr. Loring.
Andres Sassen.
One second. Mr. Loring is going to answer the question. Sorry, 1 second.
Again, appreciate the questions. I do have, let's see. These are some information that we've shared previously just in terms of best practices. So we've had, as you've said, ended last fiscal year with an operating deficit, which was covered through internal reserves, revolving accounts, as well as allocation of some additional funds through ARPA, through partnership with the Select Board and the Town Administrator within the current years projected deficit. I've worked with the Select Board. The Warrant Committee shared information around our original $2.4 million deficit, which at this point is down to 1.2, and then we expect some funding from the state that will bring that down under 700,000. That's all related to Article 2 within the warrant, which was passed, and so happy to get into that more, but this is information around some of the practices that we've highlighted. I think the first one is the primary one that we have identified through the work of the new Assistant Superintendent, Katie Blake, around just budget development. And I have some other slides I could share on this that, again, were around connected to Article 2. But essentially, we've just identified some places in which the budget line items were not reflective of historical expenditures. Utilities being an example where they were budgeted about $500,000 below what the past year's expenditure was for multiple years kind of in a row. And that is something that we have addressed within the FY26 budget. It's one of the reasons why the budget request for the schools as a level service budget was 8.4%. That's obviously a large percent increase for level service, but it's because it is right-sizing a lot of those operating lines that historically just were not reflective of what it was actually costing the schools to provide those services, right? To run the utilities, to provide special education transportation, to provide substitute coverage. Those are the three primary ones. There are a few others, but those are the three primary drivers of the deficit within the current fiscal year. So we're looking to do some other things such as budget recasting, which is kind of after we end the year in June 30th. In early July, we'll have the FY25 budget closed. We will then take that, compare that to the operating budget that the school committee has approved for the school department, and see if there are any places of concern at that point, because that gives us the greatest possible running room to address issues within the projected budget by doing that in July versus the school committee found out about the gaps in January of this past year. So those are some things we would highlight. I'd say the other couple things we are excited about doing in partnership with the town is just the ability to bring in an outside consultant to look at school financial practices, budgeting practices, purchasing practices, as well as town-wide. The school and the town budget are intricately linked. They have to talk to each other. They have to work together. And so, you know, whatever changes we need to make, being able to do that in partnership with the town to improve the systems overall is something we think it would be really helpful, and the ability to bring in kind of outside perspective. Again, I'll shout out the Assistant Superintendent Blake, who we think has brought that in and helped us a lot this year, but certainly bringing in even more capacity and thought to make sure that we're being careful stewards of the dollars that are being entrusted to the schools, and that those are going to maximize impact on students in every way possible. That's a partnership we're excited that was presented at the Select Board, and we're looking forward to joining, as well as the establishment of the Joint Finance Committee kind of across town. That was something that was missing this year. We had kind of conversations with the Select Board, not regular financial meetings this year, and so the ability to do that, as well as bringing in partners within the Warrant Committee, we think is a fantastic idea that, again, came through the Select Board. Shout out John Cohane, who was kind of a driving force of that. And so we think both those practices position us as a department, us as a town, to kind of better be proactively able to respond and work together to identify these things beforehand and make sure we are sustaining this budget. Because, as you said, this was a large override. It's not something that we can expect here in the next few years. Hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. You're recognized.
Just one follow-on, which is just one follow-on. Have you identified a way to better control the increases in the base budget? The last increase was about 9.4%. The year before, I think it was about 6.4%. The town's revenues are growing at probably somewhere between 2.5% and 3%. So there's an ongoing challenge there, and I believe that's something that the school committee has a responsibility to manage. Have you thought thought about that? Have you talked about that? Do you have any ideas about that? And I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Mr. Loring, you're recognized.
Yeah, very much appreciated. Yeah, that is a conversation that is occurring consistently within finance meetings and consistently at the school committee level. Obviously, there are things around inflation and costs associated with the town in general that have gone up significantly over these number of years, which are outpacing those revenue projections. Within schools, there are line items that are far outpacing even high inflationary costs, such as transportation, special education as particular ones. Those are costs that are far exceeding 2.9%, 3%, even the 3.8% that the warrant committee chair was referencing previously. And so that's a fiscal reality of not just Milton, but of every school district across the state, of how do you balance those two things, the fact that these are mandated services. They are not things that we can easily cut. We are required to provide transportation to students within town free of charge to certain students. We are required and need to provide necessary services to students who have an IEP, 504, English language learners. Those are costs that we cannot ignore, that our students deserve, but they are costs that are exceedingly, are increasing at a rapid rate. And so the kind of challenge for the school committee is to balance that with the needs of all other students and the programming as a whole, and operate within a budget that we can sustain. We do not anticipate having the ability to close that gap through an override for a number of years. Obviously, ARPA, all other federal funding that historically school committees have utilized to kind of help bridge, and school departments have utilized to help bridge that gap, is gone. And so we will need to do the best we can and communicate that clearly to the town residents, town meeting, warrant committee, select board on those ongoing challenges. I don't expect those things to go away and next year those to drop to 3%. They are likely to be budget pressures in FY27. They're just budget pressures. We'll need to figure out how we will manage, where we will adjust, find efficiencies wherever we can, which is why we're excited about the financial consultant. And then it will come down to just the really good work of the superintendent, the superintendent's team, all the teachers and principals and staff within the buildings to, regardless of what the budget situation is, support our students the best they possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Loring. You're recognized, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. Andres Sassing, Precinct 8.
If you could move slightly closer. Thank you.
Andres Sassing, Precinct 8. And I think it was probably just a slight oversight, but I wanted to say thank you to Selena Miranda, who was a former school committee member that was probably forgotten. And really thank you to all of the people who serve, because it really takes a huge commitment of time and effort. And I know that for me, it does not go unnoticed. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lessig. Sir, you're recognized.
This is the Chief King height.
There you go.
Moderator Dillon, I have a couple of questions.
Can you just say your name and your precinct?
Sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
Brian O'Halloran, Precinct 3, town meeting member. The first question is, and they're related, what % of the school budget goes to out-of-town special education? And the second question is, what % of the student population participates in that program?
Thank you. If the school committee is able to answer those questions. Mr. Loring, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I don't have those numbers off the top. Ms. Assistant Superintendent Blake is looking to see if she can pull those quickly, but we don't have those numbers readily available at this moment, Madam Moderator.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Excuse me, Michael Kelly, Precinct 9. It's a question of more curiosity than anything. If I could read this correctly, it says in fiscal year 24 that the budget went over by 3.8 million. Is that 3.8 million in the 61,577,000? And is there a projection for fiscal year 2025, which I assume ends in June 30th, 2025? In other words, it's showing $67,225,000 appropriated. Is that going to cover it, or is it going to be less than that, or is it projected to go over that?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Long, if you can answer that question, you're recognized. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. We believe the $61 million for FY24 includes about $3.4 million of it. It doesn't include the $400,000 from ARPA funds, which would have hit the town budget. The FY25 budget does not include the potential $700,000 additional costs because that is obviously what the allocated budget was at the start of this year. It's not the actuals at the end of the year. I hope that answered the question.
Sorry, sir, if you don't mind coming back
Yeah,
down to the microphone, just because later when people watch it back, they won't be able to hear you. Thank you so much.
I think what you just said was the $67,225 doesn't include about $700,000, so it's going to go over by $700,000.
The $67,225, yes, is what was allocated by town meeting last spring, right, last May. And so it doesn't include any overage because we haven't finished out the fiscal year. But we anticipate needing to go back to the town through the reserve process related to Article 2 for about another $700,000. Yes, so you're correct. That's a long way of saying you're correct. I'm sorry.
It's going over by $700,000.
That is the current projection.
Going over $700,000 of this number.
Within the FY25 budget, we have a current projected deficit of about $700,000.
Is that $700,000 covered in the recommendation, the contingency recommendation? In other words, you're asking for more money. Is that more money you're asking for cover the $700,000?
Yeah, this is related a bit to Article 2. So the $700,000 is not a part of the FY26 contingent or non-contingent budget. That's a separate thing. The $700,000 is related to the FY25 budget. So the FY25 budget of $67.2 million is projected at this point to be under budget, or we're projected to have a deficit within the FY25 budget on June 30th of $700,000 that we will need to close.
So basically that $700,000 just isn't accounted for anywhere here.
It's not accounted because it hasn't been spent yet or allocated yet to the school department, which is why it's not up there.
It hasn't been allocated against it yet, so it hasn't been accounted for yet, but it has to come from someplace.
Yeah, so we would assume at some point it is. So again, to your point, the $67.2 million number within FY25, we assume at the close of year be closer to $67.9 million. The exact deficit number we are not certain of because of the fiscal year has not concluded.
Because I'm hearing you here and here too, but so that $700,000 will have to be added to the $5,640,000.
No, the $700,000 has nothing to do with the FY26 budget.
Maybe I'm just slow.
Mr. Kelly, if we can...
it seems like it comes
Mr.
from
Kelly.
someplace, but you can't tell me where it comes from.
Mr. Kelly, if we can pause for a second. If you can address all of your questions, we need to give other people a chance to speak. You can come back up after other people have had a chance to speak. Sir, you're recognized. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. David Cornish, Precinct 10, Town Meeting Member. I just had a question about, on the warrant on page 53, the warrant committee looks like they made a long series of recommendations to the school committee or the school department. And it's not clear to me, it says at the bottom, it feels that adopting the above practices and the addition of the new Assistant Superintendent of Business and Finance is a step in the right direction. So it's not clear to me whether those were adopted or not, or if they've been considered yet. Is that clear, the question?
Yes. Would the warrant committee like to speak to that, since it's the warrant committee's comment? Mr. Caldwell.
Tom Caldwell, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 6, and Chair of the Warrant Committee. In terms of the very lengthy comment the Warrant Committee drafted concerning the school department budget, it set forth in there a series of our own recommendations that were made over the course of our study of the budget, and obviously the situation throughout the school with many of our senior members from the school subcommittee of the warrant committee. So in no way do I want to be before this body representing that these are adopted policies of the school department. These were merely our recommendation as citizens to the town and to the committee.
Yeah, so my question is the school committee going to adopt these, or have they adopted any of them?
I think there are, I can represent, at least to the recording of their school finance subcommittee meetings. That is something they are doing it based upon our recommendation. Obviously, the hiring of the new assistant superintendent, the specialty in finance is also a step in the right direction to directly deal with the budget with the school committee. However, I think in terms of written policy, I would defer to the school department at this time, the school committee, to answer that question.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Are there other comments? Sir, you're recognized. Go ahead.
Jim Mulligan, Precinct 2.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, that's all right.
Yeah, can the school committee address these question?
Amanda Serio, Chair of the School Committee, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 5. I can say that a number of these recommendations have been discussed. Some of them have not been discussed within the school committee, that we haven't taken the comments from the warrant committee and brought them forward to either the policy subcommittee or the full school committee. We haven't had the opportunity yet. There are some, as we go through them, there are some that have been recommended that Member Loring referenced when we were talking about best practices moving forward. So I think this is something that we can take into consideration. At this point, we haven't had the opportunity as a full school committee to look at the full list, but that is something that we can do.
Thank you. Mr. Mulligan, you're recognized. Oh, sorry, Ms.
could I
Serio,
clarify?
yes, you go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify one other thing to the previous question. So with the question about the budget between the FY25 and the FY26 budget, so the question of the $700,000 deficit, that was answered in Article 2. So Article 2, that's where the funding for the projected $700,000 deficit is coming from. The projected budget for the budget that we're projecting for FY26 incorporates that amount that we are over. So the FY26 budget is inclusive of that amount, so we aren't looking for FY26 plus an additional 700. The work that was done was to use actuals, as we've discussed, and so this budget has been right-sized based on that. So it includes those actuals, so that we are not looking for additional money over and above the FY26 budget, and the FY25 budget allocation would be coming from Article 2. I hope that clarifies.
Thank you, Ms. Serio. Mr. Mulligan, you're recognized, sir.
So Jim Mulligan, Precinct 2. I just had two questions. The first question is, in the note from the warrant committee, it talks about deferred spending for the consolidated facilities. And so I was wondering, what did we defer? We spent an awful lot of money on brand new schools, and I would hate to start to see things falling apart at this point. I actually think the schools are in great shape. I think that at the end of the day, it's been like 25 years since that all started. We have to keep spending on keeping the facilities, so we're not back at where we were 25 years ago. And then the second one is, I'm a little concerned about the budget going forward because grants are getting slashed in the federal government. And so one of my questions is, what's the percentage of federal grant money that's in our school department, and what are we going to do? Has there been any thought or any discussion of that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mulligan. The first question was directed to the Warrant Committee, so if Mr. Caldwell is able to talk to that question, addressing specific language regarding the Warrant Committee comment.
Thank you. Tom Caldwell, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 6, and Chair of the Warrant Committee. Just for clarification, the question concerning school building repair, and I'm sorry, sir. Deferred maintenance?
Page 52, sorry. Page 52, third paragraph. A number of steps were taken to address the projected FY25 deficit. They included a hiring freeze, a purchase order freeze, and a decision to defer some consolidated facilities purchase orders. And so I'm just wondering, what are we deferring?
Good. If I could just have one moment.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mulligan.
I'll stay.
The Savior. Thank you, Mr. McCarthy.
Tom McCarthy, Consolidated Facilities Director. I think the language is discussion of possibility of removing a capital item. We didn't remove it. Okay, all right. Sorry, clarification. Thank you, Mark. So it was, we reviewed some purchase orders that were made that I went through some logistics that we weren't going to use. So I just thought it would help with the deficit.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. And then the second question was directed to the school. So if the school committee, Mr. Loring, you're recognized.
Within the current fiscal year, we received about $1.3 million of federal funding, which represents about 2% of the budget. If that funding were to go away, that would represent a significant challenge that we would need to work through and discuss as a town, as every town across the country would need to if that just went away. So there's a lot of different scenarios that could play out in terms of the amount that could be cut, when, where, so difficult to determine.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
You're
you.
recognized. Oh, okay. Thank you. Do we have further questions or comments? Sir, go ahead. You're recognized.
Brian O'Halloran, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 3. I had a couple of follow-up questions, Moderator Dillon.
Go ahead, sir.
The first is, what is the process for discovering answers to the two questions I asked earlier about out-of-town special education? It's question number one. And the second is, when could we expect to get answers to those questions? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Serio, you're recognized.
Amanda Serio, Chair of the School Committee, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 5. Those are fairly easy, that's fairly easy information to get. We just don't have it on hand right now. So you could, we understand the question. We can follow up with it if you would like to follow up with an email so that we could get it back to you directly. But the number of students that we have out of district, we keep track of that. And I think it's ballpark around 65, but I would let Katie Blake get back to you with that. And then the percentage, and then the second question is the percentage of the total budget that is being spent on out-of-district tuition and transportation. Is that correct? Out of town. Yeah, so the same, so when you say out of town, are you talking specifically about students in special education who are educated outside of town? Yes.
Sir, if you can, sorry, go ahead, but if we're going to have
Sorry,
further
yeah.
questions, if
Yeah.
you can go
Yeah,
back
so-
down so people can hear, go ahead.
Okay, so yes, so we could get you the two bits of information that you're requesting are the number of students who are being educated out of district, and then the second question is the percentage of our total budget that is being spent on out of town or out of district tuition for special education students.
I don't need the actual numbers, just the percentages.
Oh, the percentages for both. The
For both.
percentage of the budget and the percentage of students.
Correct.
Excellent.
Thank
Yes, thank you. If you could just follow up with an email, just so we have your email and we could get it to you directly. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, go ahead. You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Jeff Stone, Precinct 1. Mr. Loring had a few slides back that had 3 bullet points on it regarding suggestions or proposed steps. Could we see that slide? I'd like to refer to it.
Sure. Mr. Loring, if you could pull that up.
There it is. Thank you. So the comment of the Warrant Committee to Article 24 was quite impressive, detailed, blunt. It really had an effect on me. And I don't want to be nitpicky, but this is the place to be nitpicky. So there's a couple of hedge words in here. Maybe this was already covered in previous comments and I missed it earlier. But in the second bullet point, it says planned establishment of a joint town finance committee. And in the third bullet point, it says committee would, using the word would, meet monthly. Is this definite? This establishment of a joint town finance committee, is this agreed to by the select board, the warrant committee, and the school committee? Is it really going to happen? And will it meet monthly? Is that definite?
Thank you, sir. If we could have an answer. I know that was directed to the select board, the school committee, and the warrant committee. Chair Wells, thank you.
Just when I thought I wouldn't have to talk anymore tonight. Good evening, Richard Wells, Chair of the Select Board, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 7. Yes, so the joint, we haven't voted it yet, but the joint school Select Board committee will be added to very shortly. I would suggest they may meet more than monthly at times. It depends on the given time of the year. So particularly when we get into the months that approach the annual town meeting or things where budgetary issues become significant, or if, God forbid, the situation that just was referred to, if you had cuts in federal dollars, those are things that necessitate often meetings more than these. So, but the answer to your question is yes, we agree to that, and they agree to that, and we welcome that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, go ahead. You're recognized.
Sheila Varela, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 8. Well, two things, a comment, I guess, yeah, just 2 comments with regarding to the budget. So to follow up Mr. Stone's comment, I think it's great that you're going to reestablish that, because for the 6 years that I was on the committee, I know it started, I think, with Ms. Conlon and Mr. Zulis, but we always had that joint finance meeting, and it was sometimes monthly, sometimes weekly, like when you needed it, but it really ensures communication, and the warrant committee people would also come into it. So it's very much needed, and I'm very glad to hear that it'll move forward. Secondly, with the other comment from the gentleman from about special education, moving forward, I would very much ask that the Assistant Superintendent of Business have those calculations about any special education costs, like readily available at an annual town meeting. That's very important to have, and I'm glad that the gentleman will accept an email back, but to not have that readily available is not very transparent. So that's just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Varela. Anybody else wishing to speak? Sir, you're recognized. Go ahead.
James Jenkins, Precinct 3, Town Meeting Member. I think this is for Warrant Committee Chair, Mr. Caldwell. Just synthesizing over the past couple of months, Select Board Chair asked Mr. Milano what his recommendations were for audit and considerations of best practices and those types of things. And I really heard him speak that it's the shared HR and finance systems that the town uses that is one consideration to help the town be more transparent, be more in real time on evaluating those types of things. And so I wonder if the warrant committee ever took up that recommendation and what you were saying, and then back to the recommendations in this on page 53. I'm curious, since so many people have spoken to them, is this in reference to what I took from one of y'all's meetings? I think it was the town of Brockton that had a $68 million deficit with the school committee, and is that what these are referring to? And then therefore, do you think that, or does the finance committee of the town think that the financial management systems are one of the important recommendations that needs to be considered, as well as how the school committee or the joint committees work together and show up together? Does that make sense?
Thank you,
So-
Mr. Jenkins.
So you got.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Mr. Caldwell.
Yes. Tom Caldwell, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 6, and Chair of the Warrant Committee. So in terms of these I'm going to try to split the question out.
There were 2 points coming together. Yeah.
So I would say that some of the recommendations, the recommendations that are bulleted were drawn from the city of Brockton. Some of them, if not a majority of them, were drawn from the city of Brockton. These, and of course it was highlighted given the great attention that was given to the scenario in the city. And the discussions of not only the Warrant Committee as a whole, but also the Warrant Committee School Subcommittee, this was a major kind of issue for them, because as that hit the news, we were starting to slowly hear rumblings of issues in our school. So we did in our comment adopt a lot of those recommendations. And as I indicated to a previous question, these are merely our recommendations. And we drew from many other sources, other scenarios throughout the Commonwealth, other municipalities that were having difficulty in their school budget. And we felt as if though what we selected and bulleted in the comment was just a good roadmap, perhaps for the school department and school committee to consider in the future. And throughout this year in having the school committee come in and talking with them, I think there are many of those suggestions that they may perhaps truly implement. And I think it would just be, the committee as a whole believes it will be a great assistance to them. Certainly not all of them. There's not a one-size-fits-all here, but we figured we would give some guardrails and see perhaps what the school committee wanted to adopt.
I think my question, pulling that together, is do we need financial management technology to be able to do the work that everyone in this town, this body wants? And those are two.
No, so thank you so much. Well, I can say one thing. From the Warrant Committee's perspective, new software and systems cost money. And they tend to cost a lot of money. In review of the schools in the hiring of the new assistant superintendent of finance and the presentations that we've been given, I would not say that we need any type of specialized software. I think given the scenario that's happened over the past year, I think it's reoriented in terms of the presentation to us, reoriented the minds and the eyes of the school committee. The Warrant Committee truly believes that there is a renewed focus on the budget. There is with the hiring of the superintendent who presented to us to address many of the issues that we've been talking about here and we discuss in our comments. So I'm not, and the Warrant Committee is not in the situation, and I apologize to keep saying The warrant committee was never in a position to recommend any type of automated software or anything like that. We believe that based upon what was illustrated to us in our discussions, that they have things under control. And as we indicated in our comment, we do have a strong belief that they have the best interest of the town in our pocketbook in educating our students. The warrant committee is very pro our school committee, very pro school. We were very happy to have them in and discuss with them the various issues that have come up, and not only some of the what we would term budgetary issues, but also a lot of the successes of the schools. So I guess to answer your question is no. I think the warrant committee believes the personnel and the outline is there for future success financially, and again, we will see how this bears out over the next several years. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Mr. Loring would like to add. Go ahead, Mr. Loring, you're recognized.
Sorry, the assistant superintendent was just able to pull the information that was requested. 1.3% of our approximately 1.3% of our students attend out-of-district schools, and it represents the cost of that represents about 6.7% of the school department total budget for FY26.
Thank you for that information. Sir, you're recognized. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Mike Zulis, Precinct 3, Town Meeting Member. This is in the category, the old fogey comment. 10 years ago, we had what was called the Town School Consolidation Committee, and that was comprised of members of the school committee, members of the select board, the finance committee the finance department members from both school and town, and we had many people who are here tonight were on that committee. And we also had residents. We had 2 residents as well. So a suggestion, if you have a committee about consolidation and have everyone in the room, have a couple of residents as well, because it provides transparency and great ideas. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zulis. Ma'am in the pink, and then we'll come to you.
Rena Dennehy, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 8. I appreciate the questions from the body regarding transparency, especially with schools. Keep asking the questions. They're important. And I would like to acknowledge that to the gentleman who asked the question regarding the transparency about sending students out of district, instead of perhaps following up with an email, perhaps the school committee could post those numbers on the website going forward regarding transparency for all numbers.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Arthur Doyle, Precinct 7 member. I'd like to applaud the direction that's been discussed here in terms of the future. It's a very important direction that's being taken for the town as a whole. I would like to hope that this direction will be incorporated into the position descriptions of the senior administrators for the Milton Public Schools and other affiliated parties. In addition to that, I'd like to hope that, or recommend that we have quarterly reports deliberately targeted to the public community on the fiscal standing in the Milton Public Schools, and maybe as a town as a whole. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Thank you. Are there any other individuals that wish to speak to this article? Seeing none. Since we've had some debate, I will read it again so we can remember. The motion is that the town appropriate the amounts shown in the following tabulation under the heading non-contingent recommendation fiscal year 26, and that the town appropriate the amount shown in the following tabulation under the heading contingent recommendation fiscal year 26, contingent upon passage by the voters of the town of Milton of an override ballot question under Chapter 59, Section 21C of the Massachusetts General Laws, and that to meet said appropriation, the sum of $72,873,914 be raised from the tax levy. I will now open the matter for a vote. Matter passes 96%, 230 yes, and 4 no. We will now move on to Article 25, which was passed by consent. Article 26, passed by consent. Article 27, passed by consent. We move on to Article 28, which is not on the consent agenda, and which I will read aloud. The motion before the body reads as follows. That the town appropriate the amount shown in the following tabulation under the heading Non-Contingent Recommendation Fiscal Year 26, and that the town appropriate the amount shown in the following tabulation under the heading Contingent Recommendation Fiscal Year 26, contingent upon passage by the voters of the town of Milton of an override ballot question under Chapter 59, Section 21C of the Massachusetts General Laws, and that to meet said appropriation, the sum of $528,956 shall be appropriated from funds certified by the Department of Revenue as free cash. If the voters do not approve of an override ballot question under Chapter 59, Section 21C of the Massachusetts General Laws, the town shall appropriate $300,000, and to meet said appropriation, the sum of $300,000 shall be appropriated from funds certified by the Department of Revenue as free cash. I will now open the article up for any kind of discussion, questions, or debate. Seeing none, I will therefore open Article 28 up for a vote. The article passes 100%, 233 yes and 0 no. We will now move on to Article 29. Of note, Article 29 requires a 2/3 majority. The motion on the floor is that the town vote pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 5B, to establish a special purpose stabilization to be known as the Operating Budget Stabilization Fund for the purpose of funding the operating budgets of the town and the public schools, and that the town vote to appropriate $2,700,000, to the said Operating Budget Stabilization Fund, that the sum of $2 million be appropriated from funds certified by the Department of Revenue as free cash, and $700,000 be raised from the tax levy contingent upon passage by the voters of the town of Milton of an override ballot question under Chapter 59, Section 21C of the Massachusetts General Laws. I will now open the matter for debate or discussion. And seeing none, I will now open the matter up for a vote on Article 29. Again, this needs a 2/3 majority. Thank you. Motion passes with a 2/3, 226 yes and 3 no. Moving on to Article 30, which was again not on the consent agenda. The motion before the body is that the town vote to accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 13E, to establish a reserve fund to be called the Special Education Reserve Fund to pay unanticipated or unbudgeted costs of special education, out-of-district tuition, and transportation. I will now open Article 30 for any kind of discussion or questions that anybody may have. And seeing none, now open Article 30 to a vote. This is a simple majority. Article 30 passes, 227 yes, 3 no. Moving on to Article 31, which was also not on the consent agenda. The motion before the body is that the town appropriate the sum of $282,256 for the reserve fund for extraordinary or unforeseen expenditures for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 2025, and that to meet said appropriation, the sum of $282,256 be appropriated from the tax levy. I will now open the matter for any kind of discussion. Yes, ma'am, you're recognized.
Thank you. Jennifer Daly, Precinct 10, and I apologize if my ignorance is showing here. I'm a new member, I don't know anything. But I'm wondering, have we spent every dollar of the override by the end of tonight? Will everything be allocated and what's left over going into this reserve fund? Or is there other places where we're keeping, in other words, are we carrying any money forward for emergencies, or is it just this reserve fund we're voting on right now?
Thank you, ma'am. The Select Board is able to answer that question. We can also give them a minute. Mr. Milano, you're recognized. And I
Thank
see.
you.
Go ahead.
Nicholas Milano, Town Administrator. So the override is $9.5 million. That the town's total tax levy that it can assess on property owners has then been increased by that $9.5 million. With the budget that is in front of the members, yes, the entire levy is anticipated to be spent through the various appropriations that the town meeting has made. In terms of money being set aside, this reserve fund article is funding that will be set aside in fiscal 26 to be used for extraordinary unanticipated costs within the fiscal year. We also, in the two previous articles, set up appropriated money first into a general stabilization fund. So that's our bank account reserves that we tend to turn to in an emergency. And then the operating budget stabilization fund, which was a combination of free cash plus $700,000 from the override, is meant to be there to support town and school operating budgets in fiscal 27 and beyond. So yes, the total amount of the levy that's been raised with the override is being allocated through the appropriations. This is one of the reserve funds that we have, but there are multiple different kinds of reserves that we have across the town budget.
Thank you, Mr. Milano. Are there any additional questions or discussion on Article 31? Seeing none, I will now open Article 31 up for a vote. Again, this is a majority vote. And the article passes 99%, 232 yes and 2 no. Article 32 was by consent. Article 33 was by consent. Moving on to Article 34 was passed by consent, and Article 35 I will read the motion before the body, that the vote to approve the projects in amount shown in the tabulation printed in the warrant under the heading CPA project funding recommendations. All projects must enter into a grant agreement with the town and submit regular progress and budget reports, and each project shall be a separate appropriation. And the chair of the Community Preservation Committee, Mr. Thomas Callahan, would like to speak. Mr. Callahan, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and I'll be brief. Sorry, I shouldn't have touched it. My name is Tom Callahan. I'm Precinct 4 Town Meeting member and a chair of the Milton Community Preservation Committee. Next slide, please. I would like to thank all of the members of the 9-member CPC, the Community Preservation Committee, but especially outgoing member Joe Duffy, who served the committee with distinction for the 3 years we've been in existence, representing the Milton Housing Authority. Next slide. In 2020, Milton voters adopted the Community Preservation Act with 63% of the town voting yes. For those unfamiliar with CPA, it is funded by a small surcharge on our property taxes and a corresponding state match. The funds must be used in 3 categories: community housing, open space and recreation, 1 category, and historic preservation. 200 communities across Massachusetts have adopted CPA, and as you see in the slide, it has some pretty impressive accomplishments over the past 25 years. Next slide. At our next meeting, the Community Preservation Committee will vote to update our our community preservation plan, which guides our decision-making each year. Our process begins with a simple eligibility application in the spring. Deadline is May 30th this year, followed by a committee review, and then an invitation to the full application stage due in the fall, September 26th this year. The committee meets with each applicant and makes final funding recommendations over the winter. That is what you're voting on in this article tonight. Next slide. CPA is popular in Milton and getting more so each year, as this slide indicates in terms of the number of applications we receive each year. Next slide. If you approve Article 35 tonight, this will be the results for the first 3 years of CPA in Milton. 41% of our funding will have gone to recreation and open space, 31% for housing, and 27% for historic preservation. Next slide. Again, upon approval tonight, 61% of our funded projects will be projects initiated by town departments and commissions, 39% brought to us by town residents. Next slide. Over 90% of our funding has gone for shovel-ready or ready-to-go projects, projects that we've been able to fund to go forward. 9.6% have been for plans and studies, many of which have already in the 3 years turned into fundable projects. Next slide. Here is a list of our top 5 funded projects over the 3 years. Senior housing, affordable housing at Winter Valley expansion, 36 units. Forbes House barn restoration, an exciting project that they're undertaking. Peverly Park Playground, a future Peverly Park Playground. Guile Road upgrade to their the field lighting at Guile Road fields. And the historic preservation of Milton lockup. Next slide. And finally, just a few highlights from the many funded projects or recommended projects that you're about to vote on. One is the receiving tomb at Milton Cemetery, the historic Milton Cemetery. We're proud to be able to recommend funding for this neglected resource in town. Collicott and Cunningham, next slide. Collicott and Cunningham Play Yard improvements. Again, we're very excited and proud to recommend funding for this and other projects. And then finally, a very exciting Wharf Park rehabilitation project. It's not completely funded yet, as is several of these projects, but we're making progress on that potential signature project for the town. So I want to just end by thanking town meeting for your support in the past and thanking the voters of the town for their overwhelming support for Community Preservation Act in Milton. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. If anyone has any questions, yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you. Linda Lee Sheridan, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 9. Thank you for that presentation. I have a question and a comment. The question is, I don't know what Peverly Park is, and I'm just curious to know where it is. I thought I knew all the playgrounds in town, so if there's a new playground coming, I'd love to know about it. Take my grandkids. And my comment is that although I appreciate the fact that schools are getting playground improvements and landscape improvements, it just makes me sad to see that Tucker School isn't represented in that list as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sheridan. Mr. Callahan, if you can answer that question that Ms. Sheridan raised. Thank you.
I think I can stay over here for that. Great questions. Peverly Park is off of Sumner Street. It's the green space by Pope's Pond, just off of Sumner Street. There's no playground there yet, but there's a great citizens committee that's working really, really hard. We've been proud to support them in all 3 funding rounds, initially with a study, to a feasibility study, and the last 2 last year with monies that go towards the new playground and furthering that this year. So they still have some fundraising to do, but that's the plan. The second question, Tucker. As a proud Tucker parent, I'm quite confident that we will see a Tucker application before us in the next round. The schools have been coming to us one by one, and I believe, I know, because I've talked to some Tucker PTO folks, and they're planning on an application this coming year.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. Ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, Janet Ferrone, Town Meeting, Precinct 2. I just had clarification. Right under the Article 35, it says on the last sentence, a total of 14, and then in parentheses it says 13 projects are recommended. So it looks like it should be 13 on both.
Thank you. Mr. Callahan, if you can answer that.
I believe that is a typo. It should be 13. Madam
Thank you.
Moderator. Yeah, 13.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Yes, sir, go ahead, you're recognized.
David Cornish, Precinct 10, town meeting member. I had a question about the Eustis Estate. I know it's for historic preservation, and I know we get free admission for the Eustis Estate, but it seems like, isn't it run by a national organization outside of Milton? And why would we be supporting that?
Thank you. Mr. Callahan, if you can answer that.
So the Eustis Estate is run by, I think, a statewide organization or a New England-wide organization? Historic New England, thank you, Meredith. So we try to evaluate each application very carefully. There are less resourced applicants and more favorably resourced applicants that do apply. One of the things we take into consideration is matching dollars and other types of resources that a relatively small investment of CPA dollars can leverage a large investment. I mentioned Winter Valley, not to be switching subjects, but we invested $400,000 in a, I can't remember, $20 million project to add 36 units. That's great leverage. I don't know what the total project costs off the top of my head for the Eustis Estate, but often state funders will look to local matches, even if they're modest matches, in order to qualify for larger funds to go into the renovation or restoration in this case. So we ask the applicants about that. We encourage them to use our money to leverage other resources, and we are satisfied that our applicants have really been able to do that.
Thank you. Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Jim Mulligan, Precinct 2. As I read through this, I noticed number 5 had to do with the Houghton's Pond Pavilion. Is this a state property? And I hate to sound petty, but they seem to be lining us up to drive us down the fairway every time they want to take one of our grants. And so I'm wondering why the town of Milton would give a state facility $60,000. And if somebody could answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Mulligan. Mr. Callahan, if you can answer that question, thank you.
So this is another example of a great Milton-led, citizen-led initiative. There's a nonprofit organization led by a Milton resident called Rise to Thrive that has reinvigorated the pavilion. there. The concession stand is open again regularly. It's staffed by students that go to an alternative high school, that ABCD, Action for Boston Community Development, runs in Boston. It's job training, it's income as these students prepare to go to college. This Milton resident came to us. He has had extraordinary cooperation from DCR in helping to make some capital improvements already to the pavilion. This is a little bit of money to continue that progress in specifically the focus of the improvements so far have been on the interior and the cooking area and that type of those types of areas in the pavilion, and now focusing on some of the more public-facing exterior parts of the historic parts of the pavilion. So it is a state resource. He has a long-term lease. Rise to Thrive does at favorable terms, and is also getting a lot of support from the state and in-kind contributions from the state. So this is, we feel this is a really complementary effort of a small amount of Milton money to save a historic resource within our borders.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan.
Thank you.
Thank you. If anyone else has any other further questions, comments, or discussion about this article? Seeing none, we can put Article 35 to a vote. This is a majority. The motion passes 223 to 6. Article 36 was on the consent agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now 10:30 p.m. We have 3 articles remaining, one of which is the lighting trespass zoning bylaw. I know that there is a motion to amend that was posted on the website and a green sheet. So I propose that we adjourn on these 3 articles until tomorrow. Thank you. All in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.